But a good time now to focus, to shift our focus after spending the last 1 hour or so, having a conversation around universal health coverage. And we told you President William Ruto is expected to assent to 4 critical bills that will help in the growth of UHC here in Kenya. We're keeping an eye on that. It's happening in the afternoon, and we shall be giving you more details about this. And that's the conversation that we're having in the first hour of this check. We're about to get on to the second hour. I've been talking about the North American tourism markets. Allow me to address you statistically speaking. You're talking about the biggest tourism and travel market in the world, which is estimated to be about 1.3 trillion US dollars in the year 2022. Its closest rival is China, which comes second with 814 billion US dollars a year. That's what we're talking about. And when you look at the number of American tourists who came over to Kenya in the year 2022, you're looking at about 200,000 American visitors. And by the way, you have a population of about 350 million American visitors. That is, you have barely scratched the surface. Can you imagine having a situation whereby you have about, let's even say 1% of American visitors, coming to Kenya or making Kenya their destination? This is of course achievable. This is workable. It just requires proper strategies and proper marketing campaign in place. The Kenya Tourism Board is working towards achieving this. The Kenyan government has its eyes on the North American market just to get the American tourist. In the studio, I told you we have a team that will be helping us to navigate through this conversation. We have Wakesho Simmons. She is the CEO and founder of Traverze Culture, which is a tourism and travel company whose main focus is to bring African Americans to Africa with a keen eye on Kenya. She's here with us. Thank you very much, Ms. Simmons, for your time.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Why the focus on the African American?
Well, first, I'm African American, so it just makes sense. The reason why I came to Kenya was to be able to find some sense of home. And so this is very important. And for most African Americans, we're trying to find that sense of home outside of being American. I'm not taking away from my ancestors and what we've contributed to America, but we're also a part of Africa. So that's why I'm focused on African Americans.
Very well. You'll be giving us more insight into that.
Absolutely.
And also joining us on the set is Kevin Onyona. He's one of the most successful Kenyan restaurateurs based in the US. He is the CEO and founder of Swahili Village, a fine dining restaurant based in the state of Maryland, the Washington, D.C., New Jersey, and soon he's opening up Atlanta in Georgia. And he has plans to open about 50 branches in the next 10 years. That's a Herculean task if you ask me, but it's up to the challenge. He knows the American food market like the back of his palm. And he's joining us here. His name is Kevin Onyona. He's a Kenyan. He's one of us. And he's conquering the American food market. Thank you very much indeed, Kevin Onyona, for your time.
Thank you, O'Brien. Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you this morning. You have been in the U.S. since 1999, and you ran one of the most successful African-based restaurants in the U.S. in the name of Swahili Village. And your specialty is Kenyan delicacies. Why is this the case?
Well, because, first of all, there is some magic in Kenya. Our food is fresh. Our food is, organic for the most part. We actually eat very well. If you present what we serve on our table every day and that which most Americans eat on a daily basis, you just see the difference right there. But more importantly, food is diplomacy. A lot of countries get into America and into the American community using food as their diplomatic item to present to the community of the Americas. I know our president calls it gastronomy tourism, and it fits just perfectly with what we do. If you know well, Americans, and Ms. Simmons will tell you, they eat out a lot, and there's always that conversation on the kitchen table. What are we eating next tomorrow? Where are we going out again next tomorrow? Or what are we ordering in tomorrow? And on that list, you'll find Asians, you'll find Japanese, you'll find Mexican, you'll find Ethiopian made it there. You'll find all manner of communities and countries listed for which they feel is something they can consume. Kenya did not make it until we introduced Swahili Village. And the idea is to make sure that that list has Kenyan cuisine, true taste of Kenya. And that's our motto. And you have to be very intentional about this, because if you open a restaurant for just Kenyans in America, chances are you will not do very well, because you don't have that population that will give you what you need, especially in a restaurant like ours. So we only serve about 10% of the population of the Kenyan people.
10%?
Yeah, the other 90% is everybody else, and most of it is actually Africans from West Africa.
And the 10% is good for your business? And
the 10% is good because we only constitute 10% of the African population in whatever areas we are at. Now,
as Kenyans?
Yes, Kenyans. Atlanta, that may be different. Atlanta will probably scratch on 15% or maybe 20%. But generally, the numbers of the West African market is always larger in any state you go to. So the pressure has always been, why are you selling True Taste of Kenya? And we are the patrons who come here. Why did you sell True Taste of Africa? Yeah. And that pressure has been there for a long time. And I say, no, you can find West African food in many, many places. Yeah. What should bring you here is to be able to commune with Kenyans and find what Kenyans eat, how they dine. This is the experience we're trying to give us. And who said Kenya is not in Africa? So, yeah, so that was something we had to very intentionally put there and stubbornly engage our customers until finally when they saw, President Kenyatta in my first restaurant in D.C., then they see, President Ruto coming to support in Newark. They finally, knew that this was very intentional. It's about our country. It's about being patriotic. Yeah. It's about exposing us to the wider community where we live.
I'll be coming back to you because I would want to find out. I know you are awarded a certificate of recognition by the president when he was opening up the hotel in New Jersey just last month. I will be coming back to you to find out what exactly does this mean for you, and how do you plan to use this new platform to drive what we are calling now the culinary and gastronomy tourism. Sorry, but I just want to hear from Ms. Simmons. I mean, earlier on I was having this conversation with you, and you were telling me that you've traveled to about 45 countries in the world?
Correct.
And you've only managed to travel to about 12 states in the U.S.?
Yes.
That's very interesting. Let me ask you this. Of all the countries that you have traveled,
yes,
why have you why Kenya for you?
Right. That's always been a question people ask me all the time. And in the beginning, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Like, why Kenya? Why Kenya? It's the people. It is truly the people. Kenyans are the most nicest people I've ever met in my life. And out of, like you said, the 45 countries that I've visited to, I never feel quite at home as I feel like when I'm here in Kenya.
It's the people.
It's the people.
It's not even the weather.
Well, the weather is good too. In Nairobi, I can't say too much about Mombasa. It's too hot. But yeah, it's the people. It's the people.
And the wildlife?
I don't come to see the wildlife, but it's okay. It's cool, yes. I come to see the people, yes.
So let me ask you this. I mean, when you talk to the African-American markets,
yes,
why would they want to, why do they want to come to Kenya? What do they tell you?
Right. So it's interesting that you asked that, because to his point, most African Americans are going to West Africa. Shout out to West Africa, by the way. But I felt like, you know, we have 54 countries in Africa. We should spread our wings a little bit and go beyond West Africa. And what's so interesting about Kenya in concern to African Americans, it doesn't just tie with slavery. It's returning back to the cradle of life. And so when I speak to most African Americans about Kenya, some of them don't really know too much about Kenya. So I am the first person that's probably introducing Kenya to them for East Africa.
So you act like the bridge between Kenya and the African American market.
Absolutely.
Wakesho, before we went for the break, and I was asking you these, you as an African American, so you understand the two markets very well, the African markets and the American markets, because you represent the two markets. Yeah. What do we need to do to ensure that we deepen the interest of African Americans to come to Kenya? It's a significant market. You have about almost 50 million people in the U.S.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a great question. All we want to do is be welcomed. Very, very simple. We don't want much. We just want Kenyans to welcome us. I believe that we should create a bilateral exchange between ourselves and Kenyans and welcome the opportunity to get to know who we are, what we represent globally, who we represent as Americans, as well as us immersing in your culture and getting to know who you are so that we can move towards conscious commerce and trade through travel.
Through travel.
Yes.
And when you say that you just want to be welcomed, I mean, what kind of welcoming would you be looking forward for?
That's a really good question. I say that all the time, welcome us. Because there's a huge gap in terms of even acknowledgement of each other, because Kenya's far. So a lot of people are used to going to West Africa. So I think welcome would look like us being able to do interviews like this in Kenya, saying, okay, we agree with you. Y'all come on home. Y'all come to Kenya and see what it's about, and we would love to get to know you and learn what you're about. Again, through social media, maybe the government welcome us to Kenya as well. Again, it's very simple, not complicated. It could just be a verbal, we welcome you to Kenya, African Americans, directly to us.
I'll be coming back to you, but I'll be wanting to find out, you've been talking about the call to action.
Yes.
You'll be telling us, what is this call to action?
Yes.
Kevin, it is said that the way to get to a man's head is through his eyes, and the way to get to a man's heart is through his stomach. Yes, last month you opened your third branch.
Yes.
And President Ruto was in attendance, and you are awarded a certificate of recognition. Help us understand, what is this certificate of recognition? How important is it, and how do you plan to use it to create that linkage between Kenya and the U.S.?
Yeah, so the recognition came about as a result of what Swahili Village has already been doing to the country, or for the country. So you walk on main streets of Washington, D.C., on M Street, and you look up and you see True Taste of Kenya, Swahili Village restaurant. That invokes a lot of things to anybody who, was just maybe a tourist just walking around town, and they're like, what? You have true taste of Kenya, restaurant. And that came strictly from basically the love we have for the country, and how much we would like to be able to present ourselves and present our cuisine. So His Excellency, the President, recognized the work that has been put into this. This is 16 years into the building of Swahili Village, True Taste of Kenya, with millions of dollars having been spent, yes, for commerce, but also for diplomacy. The DC restaurant, for instance, I could have opened it anywhere in the city. I could have put it on, southeast. I could have put it on northwest area of the city. We went to the main diplomatic corridor of the city of DC. We're only a few blocks away from the White House, the World Bank, the IMF. Oh. We'd sit right on the diplomatic space, so that we went within walking distance to a lot of the embassies.
You're within what we call the triangle of power.
Absolutely.
In Washington, D.C.
And that makes your rent, you can start imagining what that costs to be able to put that restaurant
And
there.
this is a Kenyan business, right in the triangle of power in the U.S.
Yes, and it's it's Kenyan owned and it's also Kenyan built, because all of our, construction work is done by Kenyan. The design work is done by Kenyan. The architectural work is done by Kenyan. So it's not just to showcase food, but to showcase what we are about and what we can do. Because, quite often people think that, African food is supposed to be served in the back streets, and it's a small little dingy hole that you go and you don't know where the food is coming from. No, this is actually a really fine space, and we take our time to speak very loudly about what we communicate. Now, having said that, the President recognized this could be a really good platform to really be able to market Magical Kenya. After all, we're already putting Magical Kenya out there. So I'll just give you statistics, Brian. Any one of our restaurants has about, I would say now, 4,000 to 5,000 foot traffic a week.
That's a week. So you're looking at about 20,000.
So every week
every
we are visited by 15,000 guests.
Every week?
Every week. Every month is 60,000.
Just one outlet?
No. All combined.
The combined?
Yeah. And every year that number is 720,000 captive audience that bring themselves and sit in our restaurant.
720.
And they come for 4 hours. An average guest will stay in any restaurant for 4 hours.
So this is almost 4 times the number of American visitors who came to Kenya last year.
Very true. Very true.
Right.
And of course, we're trying to build, by next year we'll have another 3 locations. So you just double the 720,000. You're already in your millions of captive audience. So people come and sit down. Nobody coerced them to come. They walk themselves in. They're sitting there for 4 hours. If you market Magical Kenya and you start talking to Ms. Simmons, do you have packages that we can sell to these people who are sitting here while waiting to eat their ugali, their nyama choma, or their whatever taste that the delicacy they want? What are you selling them? What else are you showing them? This is a captive audience. And this is where we want to talk to the government. And the reason why the president came to say, we want to add you on, we want to recognize what you're doing, we want to be part of what you're doing, and we want to help you, so that the government can now see the value of that expansion process. And by the time you get to 50, you have a captive audience of several hundreds of millions of people sitting in front of you, using that very same platform. Gastronomy tourism is a very powerful way to be able to make conversions, convert from just dining to tourism, to traveling, to learning more, about it.
And credit must also be given to the former Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Penina Malonza, who is now the CS for East African Community as well as Regional Development. I know she really worked so much behind the scenes to ensure that she deepens the collaboration between the partnership between American visitors to Kenya, and I know that initiative is going. I will be coming back to you just to find out this new concept of the North American Tourism Initiative. What is it all about, and how does it work as well? But for now, I just want to bring Ms. Simmons on this issue and help us understand the call to action.
Yes.
What is it all about, and who are we targeting?
Yes, so the call to action is happening this December, the 28th through January the 8th. We look to bring at least 200 African Americans to Kenya. This year, we brought 50-plus African Americans last year who was interested in investing and relocating. So this call to action is, again, to call African Americans to Kenya. We want to change the narrative that we only have to visit West Africa. Kenya has so much to offer, and we certainly have so much to offer, and I want to share some statistics as well. The African American population is around 50-plus million in the United States. We also, if you collect our consumer power, we're the 9th richest country in the world, and we represent $1.9 trillion in consumer spending power. And so I make a concerted effort to make sure that I'm able to target that audience. It's easier for me to target that audience because I am African American, and I know what they want and what they need. So this call to action, again, is for us to initiate a relationship with Kenya through trade, commerce, and travel. And we're going to celebrate the new year right here in the motherland so that we can kind of commemorate with each other and celebrate. I love it. Yeah.
You're talking about 1.9 trillion.
Yes.
Worth of business.
Absolutely.
I mean, even targeting 10% of that will be about 190 billion US dollars.
Yes.
That is twice the size. That is almost twice the size of the Kenyan economy.
Absolutely. And I want to add, the beauty to that is that while we may be able to get tourists to come here and see the beautiful animals, we love that. What is so special and unique about African Americans is that we literally are wanting to find a place that we can call home. So we'll transfer most of those people from travelers to relocating to investors. The people that we're bringing in December, probably 5% of them will invest this time. We had the great pleasure of relocating our first African-American family last year to Kenya, and we look forward to do that for many, many more.
You're talking about people relocating from the U.S. to Kenya.
To Kenya, African-Americans.
And you have a situation whereby Kenyans want to relocate from Kenya to the U.S.
And I tell Kenyans all the time, that's crazy. Listen, you have everything you need here in Kenya. And I think if you partner with people like my colleague here beside me and ourselves, you can make Kenya the place to be. It is the place to be. And I've been coming here for the last 12 years. And I'm going to permanently move here once I get my son in college next year. So yeah.
Are you planning to settle down
absolutely, here too? Absolutely. Yes.
Help me understand these. What is these that the African Americans are seeing in Kenya that Kenyans are not seeing in Kenya?
That's a good question. I think this happens on both sides, right? Because you can say that to me, like, why would you want to leave America? Like, America is great and everything. But when we get down to the nitty gritty in terms of the African American experience, we have a rough history in America. And so plenty of us, or a lot of us, excuse me, are ready to just to create options. Even if it's not to move here permanently, have an option to be able to go somewhere where you feel safe, where you feel seen, where you don't look like the minority, you're the majority. that for us, I'm telling you, is immensely important and special to African Americans.
Where do you feel at home? Is it in the U.S. or in Kenya?
Both.
You feel? Okay,
Both.
where do you feel more at home?
Where I feel more, that's a tough one.
When you're walking in the streets of
that's
Nairobi
a tough one.
or walking in the streets of North Carolina?
Okay, to be fair, I am from the States, so I do feel more at home when I'm at home, right? But it's something else when I come here. I feel safe. So it's a different type of solace that I find when I come to Kenya. But I mean, to be fair, I feel at home when I'm in Charlotte. But Kenya is definitely my number 2 home.
Your
for
number
sure.
2 home.
Oh, yeah, I love Kenya. Yes.
Kevin, now that you have the certificate of recognition now, this initiative that the government of Kenya is working on, the North American Tourism Initiative, what is it all about, and what are we targeting?
By the way, Brian, this initiative is something I personally putting together. It is not a Kenyan government agenda, but we want to make it an agenda because North American tourist is the most sought after tourist in the world. Everybody goes after North American tourists. And you can give context. Why? Because, first of all, they are all immigrants.
Yeah.
It's easy for them to travel. There are those who are stuck in their ways, but in the end, when they have it to travel, they will get up and travel. And they want to experience new things. They want to be able to understand new cultures. And Africa right now is sexy in America. And of all the countries, Kenya is the sexiest.
Wow.
And Ms. Simmons can attest to that. You hear what she's talking about. Of all the countries in Africa, Kenya is sexiest. Now, I speak a lot to those who travel to Ghana, for instance, the year of the return. You know, that was a government intense, investment for the African Americans, and they drove that agenda, and it was a serious campaign worth a lot of money. And so we're trying to urge our government: listen, you need to take now time to do even better, because Ghana ripped immensely from it. It was about
about $6 billion US
dollars. $1 billion.
Yeah. How much?
6.1 billion.
Yeah.
Billion.
Yes.
That came out of that campaign.
The African American market.
Yeah.
Correct.
But when you talk to the African Americans who actually visited Ghana, they loved it, but there's a certain amount of sadness that they brought back home. And you ask them, would you go back? And say, I'd like to go back to Africa. Not necessarily Ghana. And that conversation has been taking place a lot. Ms. Simmons will tell you that, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to go out to travel to be sad. You want to go out to travel to have some fun, to learn, to enjoy other cultures. And as she'll tell you, the people of Kenya deliver that without them knowing.
Very good.
It's just naturally what they are. They are hospitable. They are welcoming. We now need to transfer that to the leadership of the government to say, look, let us put a structure around, where these African Americans, be it visa-free, be it, open up citizenship. Yeah. Because after all, the president says, this is the home of humanity.
Very good.
So there must be areas intentionally that the government, focuses on to make that initiative possible.
Very well. I mean, this conversation is very exhilarating, and we all agree that we can't exhaust these on within 1 hour, because I can see now it's almost coming to 12 o'clock. You actually have about a minute to 12 o'clock, but I want to give you 30 seconds.
Okay.
And send your message to the people watching you.
Oh, great. So, to my fellow Kenyans, because I consider myself a Kenyan as well, thank you for welcoming me in your country for the last 12 years, and I will continue to represent Kenya in America. And for African Americans, I welcome you to Kenya through travel, and Kenya also welcome you as well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very good. In 10 seconds.
Well, North American Tourism Initiative is our passion, and this is something that I think we need to develop further to enable us to have critical mass of Kenyans, of African Americans, or our Americans, period, traveling to come and enjoy this beautiful country. And Swahili Village is doing its part, and we know that this is intentionally something that we can achieve. Very good.
Mr. Kelvin, Miss Simmons, thank you so very much indeed for gracing our show this morning, and now it's afternoon, and of course sharing with us those interesting insights. We'll continue to have this kind of conversation so that we can ensure that we create a win-win situation for the American market and for the Kenyan market. Your time is highly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, Ms. Simmons is the CEO and founder of Traverze Culture, and Mr. Kevin Onyona is the founder and CEO of Swahili Village based in the US, talking about how to deepen tourism relations between Kenya and the United States, the strategies that we need to employ, and of course the processes that we need to go through. And of course you have heard it from him, there are tremendous opportunities that lie between the two markets. And so the question is, what do we need to do to exploit that avenue? We'll continue to have this kind of conversation. My name is O'Brien Kimani. You have been with us for the last two hours now, and we're coming to the end because Kurunzi Mashinani is coming up next. And from me and the rest of the team, have yourself a good afternoon.